you've found somebody new, you're going on dates, maybe you're even in a relationship, but the signs are all there that he's just not that into you. That's what we're gonna talk about tonight. Ingi actually inspired this topic because he's definitely not into Corona.
Hey,
oh, you
baby.
got flowers!
Yeah!
It got me thinking there's been a lot of men on 90 Day Fiancé that just weren't feeling it, but for some unknown reason they kept pushing ahead. And Ingi, I believe, wants the reality TV fame because he said that they're a fake couple, or they were possibly a couple at one point but then they broke up later on. I think on this list one of the main characters was Jesse, because Jesse was not that into Darcey.
For flowers.
Thank you.
And a nice welcome home sign.
Thank you, baby.
Because you were
Love
home,
it,
baby.
thank you.
Okay.
You look great.
Oh my God, you're
so
finally
tall.
here. Wow.
I would also argue that he wasn't that into Jennifer as well, because he's just very self-absorbed, but when it came to Jennifer, she was able to, you know, put her hands on him and do all these things to him that he would have called the police on Darcey for.
So he paid you to go on a date with him?
Idiota.
She grabs her Louis Vuittons and she throws them at me. It's an assault. I'm going to call the police.
Police?
So go away.
Oh my God, it's not funny.
So we started off when Jesse met Darcey. They tried to go on a bike ride. They tried to do all this stuff.
Careful. Babe, come on, what are you doing?
Oh boy, I'm coming.
Oh my God.
He kept introducing her to his friends and family members, and they were all sort of demeaning Darcey, talking about the age.
It's gonna be a problem. How was that for your girls? Because he can be their brother.
They were saying, well, he's basically like a brother to your children because of his age. He's not in the same league as you. Just, you know, very hurtful things.
Visualize a little boy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Mind?
You could see Jesse was not feeling Darcey the whole time. He was saying she's chaotic, she likes drama. He was trying to manipulate her, stating that she's an alcoholic, but his face really said it all. And there's a moment where he thought that he was losing her.
At least he cared a little bit.
He got emotional a bit about it. That's when Darcey was like, oh my gosh, this meant so much to me. He just immediately changed to being extremely not happy because he didn't have a sense of power anymore. And this was another one of those men that was a full-blown opportunist, and he did disrespect Jennifer as well because he insinuated that she was a working girl, because he said, did that guy pay you in order to post? And she was like, how dare you say that? We also had Azan, who was definitely not attracted to his partner.
Yeah. Physically, I'm attracted to Nicole, but just like, for example, 55%.
He really would like for her to go to the gym, and this created some of the most awkward moments on this show, because what kind of man even says that? And there was a cheating scandal, but how could you not try to pursue that affection elsewhere when a man is telling you, I need my wife to go to the gym, you're big, all this stuff? He just was not into her, but he seemed like he was a green card person, such as Muhammad, both of the Muhammads, but I think those are in a separate category of their own. So we also had Sherlon. He was the man that was working at a resort where swingers would go and they would meet together. He was just not into his lady whatsoever.
How many times have you broken the rule?
More times than you can count, my friend.
Especially since it seemed like she had put on a little bit of baby weight, and it was supposed to just be a one-night stand, but then he got stuck with the baby and it was just not what he had envisioned.
Sexual stuff, I get what I want. Sometimes I lose interest.
He doesn't enjoy his company with her. And at one point they did sort of reconnect, but things were short-lived, and he was indicating the whole time that he's not going to be honest. And I think when people tell you who they really are, you kind of have to believe them in a sense, because they're just letting you know that they're not that into you. When it comes to desiring other people, Steven, who was the naughty Mormon boy with his tongue, his long tongue.
Just because I have had troubles living by all the standards of the church doesn't mean that I'm not trying to improve.
Was always putting down Alina, saying that he wants to get with other people. There was some inconsistency about his body count, and to me that seemed like a form of dopamine release and addiction, because he was just so compulsive about the whole thing. It wasn't only about getting the pleasure. It seemed like it was really his way of taking energy from other people or feeling desired, not so much a physical release but more emotional. And then he was indicating that he wanted to have a rendezvous with a third person. To me, if your man is telling you they want a third person, just like we saw with Adriano, to me that means he's not into you.
He confessed to me that while he was in Russia, he had had sex with 3 girls.
Personally, I will not accept anything less than my man being committed to me and only me, because I know that I have worth and I have skills and talents and things to offer. I have a good heart, so there's no reason why I should be sharing my man. And when it comes to the Sister Wives and those types of shows, I used to think, I'm so happy that these women are all fighting over one ugly man. But now I'm like, I feel sorry for those women for not having the self-esteem to choose themselves first. And I'm really glad that some of the women actually got out of the situation. Speaking of Stevens, one of the worst cast members that has ever been on the show is the young, well, technically they're both young when they came on, but Steven, the one that was with the Russian lady, Olga.
Baby comes tonight. Oh my ear. It's so bad.
Olga had just given birth and he was demeaning her in the hospital and just treating her terribly. And for him to be 20 years old and have this type of abusive pattern, just to me, I don't know, it just seemed like he was way too young to be behaving this way, and it would get much worse.
It's hurtful. You're acting like a crazy. I was feeding a baby.
When we saw him later on in the diaries, you could tell he was pretending to be nice, and he had very substantial scarring on his face, and I just find that very ironic. I'm sure I'm gonna take the heat for this, but he is slowly becoming as ugly on the outside as he is on the inside.
We really need to start packing because we move in like 2 weeks and we have not started anything yet.
To scream at a woman and to not support her when she's going through a birth and a pregnancy, to me spells out that he does not want her, because eventually that control is going to loosen and he's going to have the wandering eye and want somebody else, because relationships are built on a foundation of respect, trust, and honesty. So to me, there's absolutely no respect there, and there's no sense of compassion. Therefore, there is no love in the relationship. I think that people like him just don't have the ability to love. It's not so much about Olga herself, but they have these maladaptive behaviors that they tend to repeat with different people, or they have a certain type of person that they prey on. Typically they'll go for more vulnerable people, and I believe that he wanted Olga to be in a vulnerable situation, even though we saw on the diaries that she was the one suggesting that they move without having their finances in order. Another category is ghosting to me. When it came to Valentine and Dr. April, when she had gone out to visit him in Paradise, but she was complaining about his family and their food and saying salami, and she was saying, I'm so sorry, I have OCD. that's when he sort of changed, and he didn't like the fact that she was speaking down to them because of their socioeconomic status.
Baby. Su casa?
Sí.
Oh my gosh. To come to the DR and live a impoverished lifestyle. I mean, let's be honest. You can't provide for me. I have to make my own money.
He didn't really contact her that much anymore. I think that she should have taken the hint that the romance had fizzled out at that point, but that relationship was just really based on the physical. And she did have some businesses there where he was, and she was conducting one with her ex, which was really strange.
Oh, well, yeah, I ordered you one, but you can sit in mine today.
But typically, if a man does not answer your calls, that means he's likely not that into you, unless he's working or something like that. But to me, it's like when somebody wants to be your friend or they want a relationship with you, they're gonna put in that time and effort. Otherwise, they're basically telling you that they're gonna put their attention somewhere else. You've sort of lost their attention. There's a lot of things that can make or break relationships, but judging one's family is one of those things.
Like, okay. Cat. This disappeared for like 3 days.
There's also Pedro and Chantel had a very similar plot line where Pedro just didn't seem really quite as into Chantel as she was into him. And speaking of Chantel, I have noticed, and a lot of fans have noticed, that she looks drastically different. She has been getting high off of her own aesthetic medicine injectables.
Why didn't you tell me you were gonna die? Where'd you get all those wrinkles? Let's get you some Botox.
And her face has become rather large and puffy, and that can typically happen if your lymph node system isn't like draining and it gets blocked from the material, and because they call it a medical device or medical implant, even though it's just liquid. Dr. Karim's actually local, and he's an amazing surgeon, and he was talking about how he cut open a woman's face during a facelift, and all of this liquid started coming out. He was like, "Did you just get fillers done?" And she was like, "No, I haven't had fillers for 5 or 6 years. It never truly goes away and it tends to migrate." Chantel has been ruining her natural beauty. She had a very beautiful face, and yes, she's still a beautiful woman, but I just feel like it's sort of lowered her attractiveness level. I'm not saying that to be mean, and there's also been some weight gain, it looks like, so she's very wide. Her arms, I haven't been really that into Chantel's looks recently, but when it came to her and Pedro, that was when she was at her peak, and it's so sad that she wasted her entire youth on a man. And I basically did the same thing. I wasted 7 years of my 20s on my last relationship. And it's a tough feeling because you can't get that time back, and Chantel seemed like she was having a moment where her biological clock was ticking, but the signs were there. The man was not into her. He wasn't in it for the long haul. He lasted longer than any of us anticipated, but he was not there to stay. I haven't mentioned all the opportunists in great detail because to me it's like they had the green card in mind. It's not so much that there wasn't any chemistry in the relationship. Yeah, guys, I'm trying to get back into making content. It's difficult because I have to be up at 5 a.m. for the new job I just got. Without revealing too much, it's really kind of based on regulations and rules and legal. It's sort of like the DMV. People come from the outside and they bring their projects, and it's very exciting, and most of the time you tell them no, but sometimes you get to really help a person out, and it's really rewarding and it really feels good. I call them customers even though they're technically paying us because we're working in public service. There is one which was an older lady, and I felt so bad for her because she told us that she possibly had Lyme disease. Her son had passed away from cancer, so she's all alone and she had all these lots, but she had horses on one of them. And her neighbor was reporting her for violations and driving and looking into her property. The easiest thing for her to do, we told her, was to move her horses, because apparently you have to have a primary use for a plot of land. You have to have a house or something in certain kinds of designated areas. So she couldn't just have the horses, and you can't just have a fence. That would have been the easiest thing, or going through the steps to build something else. But yeah, then there's also another couple, same thing. They had bad neighbors who were reporting them for having cars and structures, even though their land was agricultural use for like 30 years, then it was dormant for 6 years, then it was used again. We were able to give him some good news, and that was very exciting. I genuinely hope I get hired on permanently. But yeah, guys, I'm very curious what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you guys so much. Bye, guys.